Okay, so this is my presentation on the dissemination of my evidence-based practice change. So my research focused on necrotizing enterocolitis and its relationship between probiotic administration and the NICU population. Necrotizing enterocolitis, or NEC, is an infection in the gut that can lead to necrotic bowel, sepsis, and even death. NEC primarily affects premature infants. There's been a lot of research into what causes NEC and what we can do to prevent it, but the etiology is still unknown. Some current research has found that the administration of probiotics can be beneficial in preventing and decreasing the severity of NEC, and this new research presents an opportunity for change in our hospital. There's no known risk associated with probiotic administration to premature babies. And in our NICU, we actually already use the probiotics. However, our policy is to only administer probiotics to infants born less than 28 weeks gestation. And the current research that I found shows probiotic benefits for infants born 32 weeks and below. So I propose raising the cutoff for probiotic administration at our hospital from 28 to 32 weeks to keep up with this current evidence. This change would be beneficial for those infants born between 28 and 32 weeks who are still at risk for NEC, but they currently aren't receiving probiotics per our policy. Putting this new policy into place shouldn't be hard since we already use the probiotic supplements. We already have all the supplies. We just need to change our policy for the probiotic use. Dissemination of knowledge learned is the final step in evidence-based practice, and there are a lot of different methods that can be used to disseminate the results of an EBP project. Each comes with its own pros and cons. To disseminate the research I looked at, I will use a PowerPoint presentation. The PowerPoint presentation will include a brief summary of current research and pictures and graphics that depict the relationship between probiotic administration and NEC. It's important for the staff to understand why we are implementing a policy change. It's more likely for the staff to be on board with changes with the current when the current research leading to the changes thoroughly explained to them. So I looked at two different articles addressing dissemination of evidence. The first was a systematic review that assessed the best dissemination strategies for evidence-based practice. It looked at 47 different articles and found that the involvement of participants is a key element to success in any dissemination strategy. The PowerPoint presentation would allow for maximum involvement of the staff. During the presentation, I would be able to assess the understanding of the staff and go into more detail where it's needed. And I would also be able to encourage as many questions as possible. The next article I chose to look at followed the dissemination and implementation of evidence in a case study. The clinicians in the case study used the presentation method to disseminate their evidence, and that worked well for them. But they did learn that the presentations alone did not always lead to a sustainable change. A unit culture that supports EBP was very important for the new evidence to take hold, and it's also important that the nurses encouraged a spirit of inquiry and constantly questioned current practices to see if they were actually best practice. The culture in my NICU is pretty receptive to evidence-based practice change because we all want what's best for the babies. So during my presentation, I'll make sure the evidence behind the change is well explained so that the nursing staff will know why we are implementing this evidence-based change. After the dissemination of my research, I expect the nurses in my unit to understand the research explained and accept the new hospital policy regarding probiotic administration. Hopefully this change will decrease the prevalence and severity of NEC in our NICU.